Hi, everyone. It's Amy Poehler, and I'm launching a new podcast called Good Hang. In preparation for that, I asked some of my friends to send in some videos and give me some advice.
Just be yourself and the guests will come.
Don't be the celebrity that this is their sixth thing they're doing.
I love true crime and cooking podcasts. Is there any way you could combine the two?
Well, everyone has an opinion and a podcast. So join me for Good Hang. It's rough out there. We're just trying to lighten it up a little.
Welcome to the Ringer NFL Draft Show. My name is Dane Heifetz, and I'm joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck. And today we are going over all the teams in the NFC and what they need for this year's NFL Draft. But if we're being totally honest, every team just wants to be the team that won the Super Bowl. And this year, was the Philadelphia Eagles, who just crushed everyone. And honestly, DK, I feel like this is the time of the year where in 2 a.m. conversations between coaches and scouts late at night at the building, they're like, what if we could be the Eagles?
Well, I think it goes to the Eagles are especially balanced in pretty much every area. This is something that we talked about after the Super Bowl. Basically, they have the best offensive line, the best defensive line, really good linebackers, really good secondary that they fixed in 1 year, amazing receivers, amazing skill group in general, a very good quarterback, an unstoppable play that gives you this extra down, basically. Like they have everything that any team could want, the Eagles have. And so the Eagles are basically just the platonic ideal of roster building right now. Plus, they have a good GM. Plus, they have a coach, which might be good. We don't really know. But he's gone to the Super Bowl twice now, so he's probably good.
Well, the coordinators, Vic Fangio is at the cutting edge. He's the one who started everything going on in modern defense. And then Jeff Statlin's the best offensive line run game coordinator person in the whole league.
Oh, yeah, him too.
And so,
So just have the best coaches and roster in the league and front office, and you'll win.
And to be clear, did I say Jalen Hurts? Because people get really upset if I don't mention Jalen Hurts.
Noticed that you took a while to say his name. He was like the 8th thing you brought up.
Look, he's not the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's a very good quarterback. All right. So we're giving Jalen Hurts his flowers as well.
Craig, I feel like this is the time of year, and this happens in every sport, though, where a team wins a championship when it's in a dominant fashion, and then teams just do the meme of the, oh, dear Lord, I have seen what you have done for others, and I would like that for me, too.
Yeah.
I would like to go to there. Yeah, because there are certain wins, like when the Rams won the championship in the NFL, or it's like that year, I don't know, like when the Lakers won in the bubble, there are certain types of championships, cupcake rings, some could say, where that's not necessarily a model that needs to be replicated, but there are other situations like the Eagles this year, the Warriors run, Daryl Morey, Warriors jar. Daryl Morey literally built the Houston Rockets just to beat the Warriors. That was his only goal. It was like, I need to build a 3-point shooting juggernaut and with James Harden that can take down the Warriors. And so now with the way the Eagles won and with how dominant they are and with kind of reshaping the game around power football, big, mean offensive and defensive lines, running the ball. Now that seems to be kind of the new way everybody's going. And to be the best, you got to beat the best. And now that's what everybody's trying to do with Philly.
And so that's why we're rigging this up, because we wanted to do team needs. I do the team needs for NFLDraft.theringer.com. That's up there. So, what every team needs in the draft. And we give some suggestions too. And we're going to go through and we're thinking, what are these teams thinking? And especially in the NFC, we're going to do NFC today. We're going to do AFC next week. But honestly, they're thinking about how to beat the Eagles. And as Craig said, then you got to be the Eagles. And we're like, you know what? Screw it. We're just going to rank how far away every team is from being the Eagles. And that's kind of what your draft needs are, aren't you? Is what is the gap between you and being the Philadelphia Eagles? That's kind of what you need in the draft anyway. So we came up with this dumb thing. And I realized, and as we were joking about this, I realized it's actually just the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Mm-hmm. It's how many degrees away from you are the Eagles. And that's really your lot in life and your lot in the league, is how far away you are from being the Eagles.
Yeah, it honestly makes sense. The Eagles are Kevin Bacon, and how many degrees away are you from being Kevin Bacon / being better than the Eagles?
Yeah, so the Lions are only a degree away. Giants, kind of 6 degrees away. And so we realized, so I kind of made a dumb scale here, and you could argue with me if you want, but I made a 6-point scale.
How far away are we from Kevin Bacon right now?
Well, because of Bill Simmons, everybody at the Ringers 1 degree away.
Pods count? Well, no, wait, because, Craig, you're in a nationwide commercial. No, Matt Bellany is going to be in the show with Seth Rogen. So that right there gets us to Rogen. That's pretty good.
But again, Bill has interviewed and knows everybody. So if we're 1 degree away from Bill, are we 1 degree away from Bill, or are we
0
degrees away from Bill?
I don't know if a podcast.
One
When
degree
0
away.
is being Bill. That Bill is
Right.
Okay, 0 is being Bill, so we're 1 degree away from Bill. I don't know. I think
But that count. I mean, that's assuming a podcast is like a movie, which I feel like a lot of people.
we are
would quibble
2 degrees away from Kevin Bacon in probably many ways.
Podcast has to be like 3 degrees.
How many degrees from Kevin Bacon are the Eagles currently? I bet they're 1.
Now I'm getting confused.
It's probably anybody on the Eagles or the whole team.
Anybody on the Eagles?
Well, Jason Kelsey. Well, I guess he's not on the Eagles anymore.
Probably just 1 would be my guess. Let's find that out. Let's figure
Yeah,
it
we
out
can figure
later.
that out.
I'm sure whoever is Jalen Hurts' agent also knows the agent of Kevin Bacon,
Yeah.
and so it's
Well,
like 2.
Bijan Robinson was in iCarly, so he's probably got a lead on everyone else. So we'll see. But anyway, so I made the stupid scale, and it's going to be a 6-point scale. And so basically, it's just going through. Is your quarterback as good as Jalen Hurts? Yes or no? Yes, you get a point.
Mhm.
Is your skill group
What
as
could go
good as
wrong with that?
A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Saquon Barkley? You get a point. Not many points there. You offensive line. Is your offensive line like the best one in the league? If so, you get a point. Defensive line. Do you have like the best defensive tackle in the NFL on the deepest group, and also your edge rushers are the deepest group of the league? You get a point on the defensive line and pass rushers. Secondary linebackers. Do you have, I mean, I think that's not the weakest part of the Eagles,
Back
but you have like
seven,
incredible cornerbacks and serviceable safeties and great pass coverage. Cool. You get a point. And then also leadership. As Craig mentioned, do you have the best GM in football or close?
Yeah, how
Do you have-
stable is your front office and coaching situation?
Is Vic Fangio your defensive coordinator? Is Jeff Stoutland your offensive coordinator? Does that make up for Nick Sirianni, who just is your
Yes.
vibes in chief, you know? And
Yes,
people are mad
it
at,
does.
look, it is what it is.
That's the perfect solution, by the way. The perfect way to do it is to have 2 gurus as your coordinator and a maniac as your head coach.
Exactly.
That
That's
is
what it
the
is.
goal.
So anyway, those are the 6 points. And so if you lose, we're going to do this out of 6. And I don't want people to get confused, because if you're 1 degree away, that's like a 5 out of 6. I don't know if that makes sense. So I think it's more Kevin Bacon-y to say the Lions are like a degree away from the Eagles.
Yeah, do it like that. Say 1 degree away. No
But doesn't
point
that make
system.
it more complicated? Because I'm giving 6 points. So what I'm saying is the Lions have 5 out of 6 points. So they're 1 degree away. So what is less
I think I
confusing
still
for people to
understand
follow?
1 degree away.
Yeah,
People get
just
it?
get rid of the points thing. Just
Okay,
say 1
explain
degree.
it to Jackie. Well, I explained it to Jackie, and she was like, she thought the 5 out of 6 would be easier to
If
follow.
you just say the Lions are 1 degree away from the Eagles, that seems clear to me.
Okay, I'm going to say both, and then if it gets awful, you guys can tell me to stop saying both.
He really just wants to say the
Yeah,
points.
I don't know why you asked. You clearly had a plan.
I don't know. Anyway,
Okay.
we'll see. And I want to start this with the Detroit Lions, who I think are 5 out of 6 points. There are 2 teams that I think are 1 degree away. The Lions and the Rams.
And this is the NFC.
This is,
Well,
so we're doing the NFC.
Mhm.
The AFC is more teams that are close, I think. The NFC,
Yeah, we'll do
honestly,
the
I think
AFC
there's
as
only
well, but
2 teams that are really close, and one is the Lions. I am giving, so the ones where I'm giving a full point. So leadership with the Detroit Lions. I think you could quibble with this
Yeah.
if you want, but the front office, they've drafted really well. Dan Campbell is a head coach. If you want to quibble, you could say, well, they just lost their coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and 4 other assistants. Like, you could quibble with that if you
That's
want.
true.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe you could quibble with it there and say, actually, maybe
I
get them a
still
half
think Dan
point.
Quinn. I think Dan Campbell still gets them there,
I think so,
in
too.
my opinion. Yeah.
And then I'm giving the Detroit skilled players a full point. Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta. I actually think the Lions get a full point. And offensive line. I think this was the only team in the NFC I gave an offensive line the full point of like,
Sure.
yeah, they're about as good as the Eagles. Quarterback, I think Jared Goff gets the point. I think that's going to be, people are going to be mad at me about that. I'm doing half points here. I'm doing half. Is Jared Goff, I know he wet his
I would
pants
disagree.
versus Washington and Jalen Hurts. The knock on Hurts is the wrong term, but basically, even in college, Hurts has always been around incredible talent and won and gotten really close to winning championships. And Jared Goff around that hasn't been as good as in playoffs. So should I knock the Lions there? Give him a half point for Goff, or is he a full
Yeah,
point?
I think like a half point.
I think in terms of like general skill and talent and how you feel about them, I think they're honestly pretty close. But the thing that Hurts has that takes him over the edge is he has that like the tush push is like a real thing that Goff doesn't have, and I think that separates the two of them. I think Hurts on the Eagles is specifically so powerful that it kind of knocks him up another tier, and Goff on the Lions, although really good, and that's the perfect system for him, I don't know if it has that same cheat code situation that Hurts has,
Hurts is like a force multiplier right now.
Yeah, it's like Hurts would not be the same anywhere else, which is not a knock against him, but it's the perfect fit in Philly. And you could say the same for Goff, I guess, but I still think it's different.
So then we'll knock that down to the half point. But then, so the other half point, so if quarterback with Jared Goff's a half point, the other ones are the defensive line for the Lions in the secondary. And I think these are the draft needs because honestly, the half point is solely out of respect for Aiden Hutchinson, who broke his leg, but was leading the NFL in sacks. And if it weren't for him, the Lions might get his ear. I mean, if you just look at this, the Lions, you have a dozen players coming back from injury. It's hard to be confident about it because Aiden Hutchinson coming back from the broken leg, Marcus Davenport, season-ending injury with the triceps, Zadarius Smith, they acquired at the deadline, but they cut him. Aaliyah McNeil, the defensive tackle, is really good for them. They give him a big contract. He has an ACL injury, and Dan Campbell kind of admitted he might not be ready for week 1, and they're going to be like slow with him. They have another defensive tackle coming off an ACL. DJ Reader's in the final year of his deal. So you look at this, that's the big impediment. In secondary, they have some issues too with the Lions, but like overall, I just look at this draft, and the Lions need to go back to basics in the trenches, like defensive end, defensive tackle, and they lost Kevin Zeitler at right guard, and they need a guard, and honestly, Graham Glasgow was okay at left guard. He wasn't awesome, but I think that this is a trench draft for the Lions this year, DK, so I'm curious what you think the Lions should be doing. Particularly honest, the first round pick's really important for them because they need a lot of help on the trenches.
Yeah, and I think they picked 28th, right? So I've been, and I'm looking back at my past mock drafts that I've done this draft season so far. Mike Green, he's an edge defender for Marshall. He might not be there around 28 after kind of seeing how the draft season has gone. Kenneth Grant from Michigan, Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, which was probably a big reach. He's probably not going to be a first round pick.
I'm sorry, I think you mispronounced his name.
Sawyer!
The hero.
So I think we have an issue right now where we can't play necessarily some intellectual property on this podcast. So Craig might have to do the whole thing.
Right. Craig's impressions are
here.
going to come in clutch.
We start getting sued because they sound too good.
It's too good.
You guys can't just play Gus Johnson clips on the show. Jack Sawyer.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think Heifetz, you're right though. I think the meat and potatoes draft for the Lions, just get an edge guy, get a defensive tackle or both, their first couple of picks.
Well, this also aligns with what the Eagles do best, right? Like if you're trying to be the Eagles, you need to reinforce the lines, you know? Got to shop at the hardware store before the toy store. You gotta start at the lines.
I'm just like, Heifetz, as you were talking, I was just like, man, they got so many injuries last year.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't even believe it. Every game, it was like 2 guys went down with an injury. Just brutal.
Yeah. So I think they just need bodies. They need bodies on defense. And if they can find a guard along the way, I think that's the Lions. The other team here, anything else on the Lions before we move on here?
No.
The other team here I had is, and honestly, for Doc and Goff, this is actually the number 1 team in the NFC, closest to the Eagles. The Rams. I have the Rams as 1 degree away from the Eagles. And or as some would say, 5 out of 6 points, which you're right. Kind of sounds dumb as I say that.
I like the degrees.
But yeah, the degrees is better. But so I gave the Rams a full point for leadership. Just Sean McVay, Les Snead. They've clearly known what they're doing, and they don't do things the same way as the Eagles, but they're crushing it. Quarterback Stafford, full point. You know, it's like Matt Stafford. They got him back. He actually hasn't re-signed his contract. They agreed on it. Les Snead said it is semantically it is done, which I've never heard, but they agreed on a deal. So Stafford's back. You get a point. The skill guys, now that the Rams signed Devontae Adams with Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams isn't Saquon, but I'm giving them the point. Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams is incredible. I'm giving the Rams the point for the skill. And the defensive line, I'm giving the Rams the point. When you have Jared Verse and Braden Fisk on your defensive line, you have Byron Young, you have Kobe Turner, who is goo. You have Poona Ford, so you have Kobe Turner's goo and Poona Ford. You have goo and poo in the same thing.
The no context people will be like, what the fuck are you saying?
He was on The Masked Singer. The Rams' 4th best defensive lineman was on The Masked Singer. He was goo. Yeah. But I just think the Rams actually have, and again, they're the one team who gave the Eagles problems in that snow game. The closest the Eagles came to losing was the Rams. I think those are the full points. The half points to me are offensive line, where it's like they're all right. I wouldn't say they're great. Rob Havenstein at right tackle. I mean, I think that he's one of those guys that might need to be replaced. Cornerback and DK, I think for this season, the Rams being the Eagles is like they need a cornerback. They just Super Bowl champions. Like they have like Darius Williams and Ahkello Witherspoon, but like they need more depth at that spot. But honestly, the Rams' biggest needs are what are you going to do after Stafford retires? What are you going to do when Rob Havenstein can't play right tackle anymore? What are you going to do with Tyler Higbee, who's last year of his deal is 32, he's had injuries? Tight end, quarterback, right tackle for the future, cornerback for now. So I'm curious how you think that applies to the Rams draft.
Yeah, I'm in alignment with what you said there in terms of like their needs. I actually had Colston Loveland kind of like mapped out for them on my next one. I think that would be really interesting if he makes it that far. Because remember last year they tried to trade up for, apparently, according to reports, they tried to trade up for Brock Bowers, which thank God they didn't do that because as a Seahawks fan.
Because you're a Seahawks fan.
Yeah,
I'm
saying as a
Seahawks
fan, thank God for me.
Thank God he's on the Raiders. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank God he's on the Raiders. No, McVay and Brock Bowers, I actually think Brock Bowers would be like a Hall of Fame.
So
probably
sick.
will be anyway.
It also is just like another reminder that, I mean, not like anybody really doubted Bowers last year, but it's just another reminder that they have good taste, like McVay and Snead being like all in to try and go get Bowers. It didn't work out for them because no one would trade with them, but like they obviously know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's funny that the Rams are in this tier because I agree with you. They are 1 degree away, but they don't really feel like it. The Rams are so weird in that it always feels like they're 1 year away from total collapse, but then they kind of hold it all together. They start the season, and then by the end, they're in like the NFC Championship game or the divisional round. And I honestly think what they've been doing so well, and the reason why they've been able to kind of keep the ship afloat is because of their draft the last 2 years. And it's like what the Eagles did, right? If you have your blue chippers, if you have the guys that you're going to pay a bunch of money to, your Matt Staffords, you give a lot of money to your Devontae Adams, your Aaron Donalds, the Eagles, you're paying a ton of money to your receivers, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, all this stuff. You got to basically, like, the key to go from tier 2 to tier 1, where you from 2 degrees away to 1 degree away or to winning the Super Bowl, is like you basically need like 2 to 3 straight great drafts. You just need to hit for like 2 to 3 straight drafts. And the Eagles did it. It's like Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. And the Rams are kind of doing that, like their last 2 drafts. Last year, they got the 2 linemen that Heifetz just mentioned, Fisk and Verse. And then Kobe Turner and Byron Young the year before that. So it's like, if the Rams can do that one more time, again, all these guys are super cheap on their first year deals. That's what kind of elevates you to that next level when you have your big cornerstone pieces, you're like your 4 blue chippers. But getting to the next level is basically you need to go 3 for 3 on drafts.
And so on that point, the Rams actually have a first rounder this year. Again, they didn't have one for 8 years, and they got Jared Verse last year. They have a first rounder. They don't have a second rounder because they traded up for Braden Fisk. But I do think it's fair to expect the Rams to trade back in the first round to collect another pick. And they do have a compensatory pick, the 101st overall. So they do have 2/3, and I think that they would add a second. So I think you're totally right, Greg. If like,
and that goes to like having a strong, stable front office. Who knows what they're doing?
So now I got teams that are. I have next group I have is teams that are like 2 degrees away from the Eagles.
So that's like us. We're 2 degrees away from Kevin Bacon.
Exactly.
So these are the Danny and Craig tier.
Yeah, the Ringer NFL Draft Show tier.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I don't know. That's probably an insult, but yeah.
The first team, well, to who? Depends on the team, I guess.
The Minnesota Vikings. I don't know if we're the Minnesota Vikings of podcasts. Maybe.
That's also I could go either way. Anyway, I have the Vikings 2 tiers away. I give them a full point for leadership just Kevin O'Connell as head coach. I think they get a point. Skill guys, they get a point. Addison, Jefferson, etc.
Amazing.
And the D line. I think the D line's actually really good, really deep. Half point for JJ McCarthy. DK, is that too generous? He's never played in the NFL.
Point. He's never played a game.
No, he does not get a point.
He's absolutely a 0.
Oh my God. Okay, all right, it's a 0. Jesus.
I mean, and I'm bullish on him, but still, like he's never played and he's coming off a serious injury, and they're still fucking talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Also, I feel like a quarterback should be worth, in your weird point system here, I feel like a quarterback should be worth more than 1 point. Like a really good quarterback is more important than a really good
binary.
receiving
it's like 0 or 1 or whatever.
You're right. I should have thought of that before he did it, but
you know what I mean? Like Matt Stafford is still better than having 2 good wide receivers and JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. Well,
too late now.
Well, that's why the degrees works. That's why the degree. That's why they're 2 degrees away. That sounds better.
But you're right. Yeah, so every degree is a point. Fine, whatever. You know what? We're not going to change it.
No, I kill the point.
McCarthy doesn't get a point.
The points must die.
A degree. Fine. Jesus. McCarthy doesn't get a degree. But I will say, in terms of the draft for the Vikings, I think the things that I looked at this roster and I was like, huge issue. The interior offensive line, because the tackles are good enough. Christian Darrisaw at left tackle, Brian O'Neill right tackle, like they're good enough tackles. The interior offensive line is a mess. Honestly, you could argue that Sam Darnold's last 2 games that cost him all that money, the Lions game, he sucked. The Rams game, the Rams just exposed that the Vikings interior line was bad.
Right.
Like they
he was under siege the entire game.
Yeah, and Vikings fans will be the first to say, honestly, the interior, the guard center, it's like they redid it. They got Ryan Kelly, not that impressive. So, and then cornerbacks, they just lost like 3 cornerbacks in free agency. So, DK, looking at this draft, do you think the Vikings are in a good spot? So, what are the Vikings picking here? The Vikings are picking 24th. Yeah, 24th. Do you think Vikings are in a good spot if they need cornerbacks, but really interior offensive linemen? Do you like where they're at for this?
That is, I'd say that's a sweet spot right there for linemen, offensive linemen, I think, and especially in this draft where you have a handful of guys who could potentially play tackle or guard. Kelvin Banks from Texas, I think some people think he's a guard, some people think he's a tackle. He might fall a tiny bit, and if he's there in the 20s, I think he would make sense for them. Josh Connolly from Oregon is another interesting guy, former 5-star, good athlete. I think he could play left tackle, but also if they need him at guard, I think he could play that. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State is one of the better guards in this class, but I think probably not going to go much higher than 24 just because he's a guard. Josh Simmons has potential to fall because he suffered a patellar injury to his knee last season. I think teams are probably going to be a little bit worried about that. But he has true left tackle talent. I think he's a good enough athlete to play at multiple positions on the offensive line. This is the kind of draft it is where every tackle could also potentially play guard. You know what I mean? And so the Vikings are actually in a pretty sweet spot for the offensive line, I think, if a handful of guys are kind of still around when they pick.
And I think it's important for them to do it. And last episode, someone asked about need versus best player available. I think the situation the Vikings are in are when you start to lean on need. J.J. McCarthy's development as a quarterback is at stake here. And as good as Justin Jefferson is and Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson in your tackles, you know what you don't want? Guys bum rushing up the middle like we saw in that Rams-Darnold game. Like J.J. McCarthy's development is at stake. If you can solidify guard, even if you quote-unquote have to overpay. Look at the Panthers. The Panthers quote-unquote overpaid for 2 guards last year. Guess what? They revived the Bryce Young experiment. Like that changes the course of your entire team. Those are the moments where you're like, it's more than a tiebreaker for if you can go get a guy, it's not really a tackle, it's a guard. Whatever. You don't want J.J. McCarthy's development to be altered by
it's
this.
Insurance. It's like, it's important. You need it.
Exactly. So I think I think the Vikings fans should be really happy about that. The next team here I have is 2 degrees away. I think this one's weird, and you guys might be mad at me for this one too. I have the 49ers being 2 degrees away from the Eagles, which feels wrong.
Okay.
And maybe, I guess you're going to yell at me. I gave the leadership a full point, a full degree. Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, I don't want to hear anything about Kyle Shanahan. He's been to 5 of the last 9 NFC championship games.
I agree. I was just laughing because you call it a point again. But
whatever, man. I thought the degrees is complicated. Fine, we'll do the degrees. Quarterback, I gave Brock Purdy a point. I'm sorry.
I agree. You know my stance.
I gave him a point. I don't.
Craig's out here trying to trade 3 bad players for Brock Purdy.
Damn straight.
3 first-round picks.
Broderick Jones and Troy Fontenot for Brock Purdy. Where do I sign?
You're pulling.
Where do I sign?
That's why I said the Mahomes thing when you guys yelled at me.
I don't think that Purdy's as good as Hurts, but
I'll give him a half.
It can be overruled.
I think a half is fine.
Yeah,
I think a half for Purdy is fine. But then the skill guys, I also gave a half point, and I don't know if that was generous or not because I was like
the theory of them is
I know,
a half point at least, right?
Well, because it's weird because they traded Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. I don't know when he'll be 100% again. Maybe not all of next year. Christian McCaffrey has the Achilles tendonitis. Is he going to play? So you get Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall who are good. Maybe that is the half point too generous. Just McCaffrey.
Because I think if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, you have to give him the full point.
Yeah,
this whole team
or
is
half
like
point at least. I should.
This whole team is like the cast of like Fast and Furious 9, where you're like it's technically all the same people, but it doesn't feel the same. You know, all the core pillars are there for the Niners. It's like you still have your like McCaffrey, you have Trent Williams,
you also forgot
Fred
Kittle.
Warner,
Kittle is still there,
and you have George Kittle, but like the engine's not there. You know, like the car looks good, it's got great paint, cool rims, but the engine is not the same.
I think it's Ayuk, Kittle, CMC, Jennings, and then the potential of Pearsall. I think you can give them a half point pretty quickly.
But it's like Fast and Furious, you're right, where the names are sick on the poster, and then you go to the movie.
Another Fast and Furious movie, and you're like, how old is Vin Diesel?
Yeah. And then
I am Groot.
I am Groot. Oh,
I'm like, Jason Momoa's in this one? Man, okay.
I am Groot. The defensive line, I give half a point, and I almost want to rescind it for myself because it's purely just respect for Nick Bosa. But to me, DK, this is what the Niners need to attack, like more than anything. The Niners had the 11th pick in the draft. Dude, they got Nick Bosa. The Niners were the Eagles. They made those Super Bowls because they had like the deepest defensive lineman in the entire league. They got Javon Hargrave. He was an Eagle. That's a good way to become the Eagles. But then the Niners went
that's how we should be judging this. How many literal Eagles are on your team?
How many literal Eagles do you have? Yeah. No, Well, they cut Javon Hargrave. They're going in the wrong direction. They're losing Eagles left and right. But like they lost Oren Burks to the Eagles. That's bad. But like Yetter, Gross, Matos, Jordan Elliott, Evan Anderson, Drake Jackson. Those are like the other Niners linemen.
Evan Anderson.
What's
your favorite? I know all those.
What's your favorite Evan Anderson play of all time, Craig?
How dare you? He sacked Geno Smith in Week 8. It was great.
Did he?
No, I have no idea.
Okay.
DK, if you're the 49ers at 11, do you think you got to take a big bulking defensive tackle to avoid, the Evan Andersons of the world?
Isn't it funny that every team we're going through, it's like, man, they should really draft a lineman.
Yeah. Well, this is the theme here,
this
Craig.
is that draft.
Theme.
It really does. I mean, it is a theme because we're trying to be the Eagles, but also this draft is really heavy offensive line, defensive line, good players.
But that's why we're doing this exercise, is because every team is going to look at this draft and be like, we just get 2 of these picks.
Give me one of them big ones. Yeah.
Give me one of them big ones. So, DK, which big one would you take? Would you take a D tackle at 11 or a defensive end if you're the Niners? What would you do here?
Yeah, there's going to be a handful of really interesting edge players at that spot. Jalen Walker from Georgia, potentially. Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Michael Williams from Georgia. I gave them Armand Membu in the one that I'm working on right now. It's not published, but I'm just kind of like penciling him in there.
Wow,
because
sneak peek.
At right tackle.
If he falls that far, I think they jump on it. He might actually go before that. But yeah, there's a handful of really interesting edge players. There's a handful of very interesting tackle players. Will Campbell could still be there potentially. I think they have to jump at that if that happens. But yeah, the trenches are pretty much what I've got circled for the 49ers. They're not going to go skill player, almost surely. And I don't think there's not really a safety or corner at that spot that they might want to go to. I suppose Will Johnson could be a guy that they're very interested in, the corner from Michigan. But yeah, I would say trenches for sure.
I just think that they need like a defense. There's this kind of defensive tackle that they need in San Francisco to play defense the way Robert Saleh wants to play defense, and he's not on the team right now.
It does feel like if the Niners have a great draft and fill a few gaps on the lines, that like they could kind of immediately be back to winning 11 games next year, Well,
they were the oldest team in the NFL last year, the 49ers, by snap weighted age. And then you look at the Eagles, and like the Eagles defense was 28th oldest defense. Like they were, they were young. And I think that's kind of why I want to deduct a point, is the Niners go in the wrong direction.
The cool part about this exercise, and Craig, what you've kind of been talking about on the show so far is, a good draft can really propel you forward and can really turn you in from like a middling contender, maybe just a middling team period, and turn you into a potential Super Bowl winner. And the opposite is very true, where if you miss on a draft or you miss on 2 drafts in a row, all of a sudden your guys are getting all your like most talented players are getting older. Your depth is getting worse. Yep. And it can really, there's
you need to start spending
returns
in free agency in all the areas that you missed in the draft.
Yeah. There's sometimes it's like a lagging return on that, where it's like 2 years later after missing on a draft class, your team's all of a sudden sucks. But, I think you can see the returns right away too sometimes, where you basically just don't get anybody that's worth playing in a draft class. That can really hurt you. And obviously the opposite is true. It can really help you if you get a couple key players.
All right, so next up here, a team that really surprised me in terms of how many degrees they were from the Eagles, or points, as many people are demanding I say.
Many people.
I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Many people are demanding the points go back. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers I have as somewhere between 2 and 3 degrees from the Eagles, which shocked me. But as I went through it, does Baker Mayfield get a point? I guess we're getting Baker a half point. I guess realistically.
If Purdy's getting a half point, Baker gets a half point.
Baker gets a half point. I kind of gave the leadership a half point. I'm not going to say the best coaches or best leadership in the NFL, best GM.
I think they have one of the better front offices in the NFL.
They won the Super Bowl 5 years ago, and they've been so competitive for like 5 straight years. They've made so many good moves. They've known who to move on from, known who to get rid of. Like, I think the Bucs are impressive.
If they would have kept Cohen, they probably would have been a full point on this.
Yeah.
But Jason Light has, I think, shown over the last few years one of the smarter, sharper GMs. They always seem to have the ability to keep their core players, which means it seems like there's a good culture there on that team, especially on the offense. Good offensive line. Sorry, you're going to get to that, I'm sure, but
the offense, it's solid. It's not the best in the NFL, but it's solid. They've done such a solid job with it. And then the skill guys like Mike. If Chris Godwin was hurt, if Chris Godwin was healthy, I'd give him a point. But Godwin being injured, I think it's Evans, Jalen McMillan, Bucky Irvin. They get a half point.
Yeah.
Honestly, the issue they have is defensive line, where it's like they have Vita Vea as a defensive tackle who's still incredible, but they just don't have the edge rushers like you think of the Bucs. They also, when they won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, rocking their shit in, were like the Eagles, the incredible, unstoppable like amount of pass rushers the Bucs were able to get pressure with. It was effortless. All these defensive ends, all those guys are kind of gone. So now it's like their edge rushers. They got like Hassan Reddick on a 1-year mercenary deal.
Bring Hassan Reddick.
Yeah, it's like, which is when you got Hassan Reddick, he's the guy who held out from the Jets or the Cardinals and like had no, like was just doing the worst financial decision. The Le'Veon Bell himself. They have like Chris Braswell and Yaya Diaby, and it's like the Bucs need an edge rusher, I think, as much as any team. Like they need to be able to get pressure without blitzing, which even when Todd Bowles admits that's bad. And I think this is a weird draft where the Bucs, even though they're picking 26, can still get a pass rusher that could contribute at that spot. DK, do you think there's an edge rusher that's going to fall to them at that spot? Or like, am I right or am I wrong that at that point it's going to be like kind of second fiddle.
There could certainly be a pass rusher that falls. So they're picking at 19. I think there's enough guys in this class that there should be at least a couple very interesting pass rushers. Donovan Izaraku from Boston College is a guy that I like a lot. I mentioned before Mike Green, James Pierce from Tennessee. It seems like he's falling a little bit in the eyes of a lot of people. Nick Scourton from Texas A&M. Scourton maybe is how you pronounce that. There's a ton of edge players that I would like. I don't know, maybe like at that exact spot that might not be like the best value for them. There might be other directions that they could go there in terms of just like BPA, best player available. But there are certainly going to be some edge guys at that spot. Pop quiz for you guys, because I was just looking over their roster. Who is the Buccaneers offensive coordinator?
Oh, he's
he's from the Bucs, right? Like they hired from within. They didn't bring somebody in. Right?
It's a funny name. It's like the Drew Petzing of last year.
Yes, it was an internal hire, Craig. Yeah. His name is Josh Grizzard.
Josh
Grizzard?
I think I somehow kind of like missed that part. Josh Grizzard.
Wait, Grizzard?
I'm seeing now. Bucks believe new Josh Grizzard is an offensive wizard.
Ooh.
They didn't even have to it.
You guys know that band King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
No. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
Yeah.
Or the Wizard Lizard?
Cool.
It sounds familiar. Are
King
you making
Gizzard
that up?
and the Lizard Wizard. You should check them out.
Lizard Wizard.
Yeah.
So he was formerly with the Dolphins, then with the Buccaneers. Now he is the offensive coordinator.
Dude, wait, high school valedictorian. He's out of Lizard Lick, North Carolina.
Lizard Lick, North Carolina?
Grizzard Lizard Wizard.
He kind of is the King Gizzard of the Lizard Wizards.
What the fuck?
Grizzard Lizard Wizard.
Lizard Lick, North Carolina.
What's
the context there?
Speaking of Lizard Lick, did I tell you guys that Richmond near Mechanicsville is a brewery that's called Licking Hole Creek?
I like
That's
that.
Bizarre. Larry Bird's from French Lick, Indiana.
What
is that? What is French Lick? What does that mean?
I can picture something.
I don't know well.
French Lick.
Why is that a name?
I mean,
what? You talking about French kissing?
Yeah.
They just named a small town in Indiana after French kissing?
No, I don't. No.
The term lick in the city's name originated from deposits that came from the mineral water from the springs. Yeah. So it's originally a French trading post near a spring and salt lick.
A salt
lick.
French lick.
That makes sense. A salt lick.
Okay, so you both apparently know what a salt lick is. What's a salt lick?
I don't know. There's a
I know that like horses have them to get salt.
I don't know
what it actually is.
Yeah, that's just kind of a phrase I know. And I'm not sure why.
But what is that? Lick. Place where animals go to lick. Okay. I saw this on Craig. There was an episode of Planet Earth with Attenborough about this. The salt in the rainforest. There's not much salt. So animals will go and it is actually literally they lick.
It's like how we would go to a Mexican restaurant and eat a bunch of chips. We just crave the salt.
So there are like areas in the world where there's like a lot of salt and animals go and lick the salt.
I think that's what
literally it.
So I think Larry Bird would just lick up the French. I think that's
so. There are like little salty rocks where animals gather and eat a bunch of chips, basically.
Yes.
Anyway,
okay.
Josh Grizzard. Is it Grizzard, do you think?
No, I think it's Grizzard.
From Lizard Lick?
Lizard Lick, North Carolina.
Email us about Lick. If anyone can explain the Lizard Lick
French
Lick to us, email us at ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com.
I wonder where King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard
The Bucks. The thing I want to say, though, about that, because DK, your point, though, about pass rushers late in the first round, if you just look, this is not like science, but just sorting by like who led the league in sacks last year, Trey Hendrickson was the third round pick. Myles Garrett obviously was first. But then like Nick Bonita was a late second round pick. Calvin, I don't know if it really counts. But like Jonathan Goddard was, he was the third round pick. Like there are pass rushers if you can find. I know it's not that simple. TJ Watt was late first round pick. So you can get first round pass rushers that are big difference makers. So I think the Bucs need that really badly. Next team here. French Lick, no, wrong place. Sorry. Well, the Washington Commanders are 3
Surprised
degrees away.
It took this long to get to the Washington Commanders.
Well, that's why this system, and you're right. I should probably rank Jaden Daniels higher. However, I gave Jaden Daniels obviously a full degree. Maybe I need to give him more. I gave the offensive
Give him a
line,
master's degree.
Oh yeah, actually
he was in college for quite a long time, Craig.
Forever.
Double major.
Triple.
Quadruple.
After him,
Heifetz always has to do that.
The Kristen Wiig one-upper. Well, my dad's an astronaut. My dad owns the moon. My dad is the moon.
Anyway, continue.
skill guys get a half a point. Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Brian Robinson. All right. You're like halfway to AJ Brown, Devontae Saquon. The offensive line, so they traded for Laramie Tunsil. They get half a point now. I'm like, okay, I'll give them half.
I feel like it's being it is being a little generous.
Jaden Daniels is just Atlas holding up the entire team.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, are we going to give them a full point? Like they're like the best in the league at this after one season? No, they get a half. The defense, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
Defensive line, no points. May God have mercy on your soul. Like they have no. They have
literally no points.
Washington has no players that would play for the Eagles' defensive line. Like they have none. And honestly,
not even Deron Payne.
Maybe Deron over Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, but probably not. Probably not.
That's fine.
It's funny. I can't tell if what you're mapping out right now, Heifetz, is an argument to kind of fade Washington here going into year two, because a lot of this is kind of Jaden Daniels took the league by storm and was incredible and people were figuring him out. And now if things will change when you actually look under the hood and the engine's not that impressive, and maybe they nail the draft, but you're right.
The trendy zag is going to be to fade the Washington.
Totally. Because this exercise we're doing today is how close is this team to literally being the Eagles? And Washington's really not that close.
They're not that close.
They're so far. Bobby Wagner's 34 years old. Like they have Zach Ertz has come back. He's like 33. So anyway, DK, I know that this is sounding a little repetitive, but I think that this is the point. We're going to see as many defensive linemen and pass rushers taken in the first round of this draft as we've seen in the history of the draft. There's going to be probably a third to coming up on half these picks are going to be like defensive linemen. And Washington, to me, is the epitome of it, because the help for Jaden Daniels came in free agency. Every January to March was helping Jaden Daniels, Deebo, and Tunsil. But Washington is another team, DK, where they have the 20. I clicked on the 2024 draft. They have the 29th pick in Washington. Guess what? They have to get a defensive lineman. Like the only player that went their defense that would play for the Eagles is Mike Sanders still. And they need a cornerback too. So I'm curious, do you think at that point, they just go D lineman, or do they try to get a cornerback? Because all these teams, I feel like, can be repetitive. You need a D lineman and then a cornerback in round two.
I mean, I think both of those options make a ton of sense. I want to say I gave them a safety in one of my mock drafts, and the Washington fans weren't super happy with me. I think because it felt like a little bit of a luxury pick or whatever for them. They just need guys in the trenches. There are some pretty good corners that are going to be in that area, I bet. Trey Amos from Ole Miss is really interesting. Azariah Thomas from Florida State's really interesting. They could go defensive tackle. Derek Harmon out of Oregon is he's a big, explosive, penetrating interior defensive tackle. I think would make a lot of
penetrating.
sense.
Nice.
Yeah. He's just shooting gaps. Tyleik Williams from Ohio State is another interesting guy. Just a solid interior guy that's going to muck everything up and make it really hard on the offense. Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Who am I missing? There's Alfred Collins out of Texas. He's probably not going to be a first rounder, but he'll probably be like in the second round, third round range. Darius Alexander out of Toledo has gotten a lot of buzz after the Senior Bowl. He was just blowing it up there. This is, again, like, not to just say the same thing every single team, but if you want an edge guy, if you want a defensive tackle, this is the class to do it.
Is there a deep cut defensive lineman? Because all these teams are saying need defensive linemen. Is there someone that you think in the second round that could make a big difference for these teams? Because Washington, again, their next pick is not early second round. Like, so is there someone that
you mean a defensive tackle or
pass rusher?
Yeah, I mean, again, tons of guys. Princely Umad Milan from Ole Miss is another guy that I like a lot in that second round range. Let's see here. Oluwafemi Oladejo from UCLA. I'm sure I freaking butchered his name, but he's another interesting guy. He's kind of like another one of those hybrid linebacker / edge players. He played linebacker early on in his career, switched to edge, really explosive. He's still learning the position, but he's really fun. I like watching his tape a lot. I actually comped him to Yaya Diaby, and that kind of like shorter but really stout frame, really powerful off the edge, really explosive off the edge. You got JT. God, I'm gonna freaking butcher all these guys' name. The Ohio State guy, JT Tuamaloa, which I'm sure I messed that name up. Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, second rounder probably. Ty Robinson out of Nebraska, another guy that rose during this process. TJ Sanders from South Carolina, another really interesting guy. Again, there's 20 probably defensive tackles that could go in this second, third round range. Like guys that I potentially could go in that range.
Defensive lineman, right?
Yeah, what did I say?
Tackles.
D tackles and edge guys, yeah.
Good, because another team that needs one. The Packers, who I have as 3 degrees away from the Philadelphia Eagles. I gave him a point for leadership. Like, just LaFleur, I think, has been an incredible coach. And then, honestly, Gutekunst, the GM, is controversial. But, like, anyone who got rid of Aaron Rodgers ahead of the curve, I think, gets a point for me. Quarterback, I think Jordan Love probably gets half a point, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give him a full, and I was like, that's insane. Jordan Love gets half. The skill guys get half. You know, it's like Christian Watson's hurt. Like, they need a number 1 receiver. What Josh Jacobs out here saying they need a number 1. But realistically, like,
I would say even a half is generous.
I think half probably is generous. The offensive line gets a half, but honestly, the defensive line to me with Green Bay is just such a huge issue. Like, at the end of the day, the spine of the Green Bay defense is solid. Like, I mean, they have Devontae Wyatt. Kenny Clark wasn't great last year, but they have Edgerrin Cooper. Like, the linebackers are solid. Safeties, Avery McKinney. The middle of the defense is cool. The edges are a mess. Like, the pass rushers, like Lucas Van Ness, the Packers took in the first round a couple years ago. He doesn't even start for the team. He barely plays. Cornerback.
He never started in college either, for the record.
He just hasn't. This guy hasn't started a game since high school.
That was like one of those weird little things about him. Is
the ultimate hindsight is 2020. Fuck,
Well,
he didn't even start.
It was like one of those things where I always just like ceremonially starting the seniors versus the underclassmen, and so he would just come in after like a couple plays. But yeah.
But now the tuxedos seem kind of fucked up.
Right. Sure.
So
he was always about potential. So.
Well, so was Rashawn Gary, and Rashawn, even as a prospect in like high school, Rashawn Gary also hasn't hit it. So then you look at that, and then the cornerbacks, Jair Alexander's, I feel like might never play for the Packers again. And they lost 3 other cornerbacks in free agency. So the Packers, to me, are another team. There's a theme here, but this is what teams need. Defensive linemen and cornerbacks. Like, the Packers are the epitome of everything else is kind of okay, but like they have honestly nothing going for them there.
Jedi Barron, the corner out of Texas, might make some sense for them.
Do you think he's going to fall that far?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. I've got him a little bit higher than a lot of other people, but
Packers are picking 23rd.
Yeah. He ran really well at the combine. He's really feisty, really competitive. Reminds me just a little bit about like Devin Witherspoon type player, where just a spark plug on your defense. So he's super interesting. I think he could go anywhere from like 15 to, early second round. Probably not that late, but you never really know.
And I Cody Alexander at Match Quarters has this metaphor I love of just like, if you think of defense like a house, like the foundation is kind of your defensive linemen, your trenches, like D tackles, defensive ends, that kind of stuff is the foundation. And then if you have your outside cornerbacks and stuff, the safeties kind of set the roof. But a player like Jahdae Barron and the nickel, the middle linebacker, like those guys are kind of the glue or the nails or whatever. Like they're kind of holding everyone together. So your ability of your house to like sustain, what happens if there's an earthquake or something, like the actual ability for the house to like survive and how well it's built is dependent on players like Jahdae Barron, which I think a guy like Brian Branch in Detroit. It's funny because we saw him as a first rounder and the league didn't, but I think it's more just bias against the position than it is anything else, because I look at Jahdae Barron and I'm like, that's a top 16 player to me.
And he could play outside too. I think he's one of those players that could play inside or outside, I think. It's just, I think the Packers just need playmakers, man. They have all these really highly drafted guys, and all of them are pretty solid. I just think they need players that are going to just absolutely make plays, make turnovers.
Yeah, they're like the opposite. They need the blue chippers. They have like, they need some of the flash. They need like a couple guys that are going to take them over the edge, but they kind of have the foundation, and the engine is not bad.
That's actually a perfect way to look at Green Bay. Is they're literally like green. Like they're B everywhere. Like they've thrown all these first round picks. They're the opposite of the Falcons. All these first round picks on defense don't have a ton of stars to show for it. The offensive line is actually similar to the Eagles, where it's a factory, but the Eagles are throwing like high leverage athletes and prospects at it. The Packers have an offensive lineman, offensive line coach as their coordinator, but like they're just kind of churning out 3rd and 7th round guys into like serviceable starters, which is impressive. But like even last year, they took Jordan Morgan in the first round out of Arizona, and now he wants to play left tackle. And they're like, we kind of think you're a guard. He showed up and was like, I want to be the left tackle. So now they're letting him compete with Rasheed Walker for left tackle. I don't know. There's just something. they don't have the ceiling. And I think that's what Josh Jacobs was saying about the receivers. Like the receiving core thing does extend to the rest of the roster. I think that's a good point. Okay. Another team, DK, you're going to be mad at me, but another team that I was like 3 degrees away, and honestly, maybe it's 4 degrees away from being the Eagles, is the Seattle Seahawks.
I think that's
I
fair.
didn't know what to do with this team.
I think that's fair.
I didn't know.
DK was expecting you to say 2 degrees away from the Eagles?
I don't know, but I looked at this
No.
team and I'm giving them, I think 3 is generous.
I think we
Because-
could look back in a year from now and be like, oh, yeah, they were 2 away. But right now, there's so many question marks.
I think
Here's
we could
why.
also look back a year from now and say they're 4 away.
4.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
I don't know what grade to give.
They're high variance, let's say.
Yeah,
I don't know what grade to give the leadership of the team with John Schneider's GM, McDonald as the coach, and then like Clint Kubiak. The whole thing seems to be dependent on Clint Kubiak being better as the offensive coordinator. I mean, DK, like, what would you give this team? Because as I go through it,
No, I really don't know. I think I'm still torn on the leadership thing. I think Mike McDonald has shown to be very promising so far. What he did with the defense in the second half of last year, I think his personality, it seems like the players really love him and really have kind of embraced his new program and his new thing. I think it depends on what day you ask me whether I think John Schneider's any good. I would probably say yes or no, depending. Like on a Monday, I'd say yes. Tuesday, I'd say no. I just change every day because he does things that annoy me. Like for instance, not signing any starting caliber offensive lineman in free agency when they have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. But then again, and then just like trading away Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and doing this grand experiment with Darnold and Cooper Kupp of all people, it's just going to be so weird and so different. I don't know what to make of it. I'm not super confident, but at the same time, like you said, Craig, we could look back in a year and it would not surprise me totally if the Seahawks actually were really competitive. I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl team, but if they're really competitive or if they just completely fall apart, neither one won't surprise me.
I feel like it all depends on what they do in the draft with the offensive line. Like the defense started to move in the right direction last year. McDonald's like stuff is starting to come together. If you can't block for Sam Darnold, none of it's going to work.
He is pressure sensitive quarterback. Yeah.
and here's the weird thing though, is I feel like based on looking at what the Seahawks did in free agency, and maybe they'll draft an offensive lineman, we'll see. But they really seem to be signaling that they think the problem was the offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb, and the coaching on the offensive line. He came from Washington school, but like not necessarily NFL run stuff. And they're kind of, I feel like they're kind of saying, we have NFL offensive linemen, we need to coach them better, which we'll see. That's a bet of sorts, because the flip side is the Seahawks aren't like these other teams. They don't necessarily need defensive linemen. You drafted Byron Murphy out of Texas at defensive tackle last year.
Yeah.
The D-line, I think, is actually close to the Eagles. Like Leonard Williams, Jared Reed, Byron Murphy. It's an incredible defensive line. Like they have numbers, DeMarcus Lawrence, Cheno Wosu. Like I think that they have good linemen. The flip side, though, can I blow your mind, DK? Maybe you already know this. Pass catchers on the Seattle Seahawks were under contract after next season. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp, AJ Barner, tight end.
Wow.
Literally 2 receivers, 1 tight end are under contract. Every other pass catcher in Seattle is a free agent after the season. And it's the same thing in the secondary. The only secondaries, cornerbacks and safeties, the only ones under contract after next season, there's 4. It's like Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love are the only starters. And then there's a couple backups under contract. But like you start 5 secondary guys at this point. They have 4 under contract next season. So like you look at the draft, DK, what do you want the Seahawks to do at this point where you need linemen? You also have no pass catchers under contract and very few players in the secondary.
I want an offensive lineman first and foremost. That would be like my dream, is one of these really good offensive linemen fall to that spot and they just scoop them up and make the really logical, smart move. And like, there you go. You have a new offensive lineman. That's going to help a lot. If they don't do that, I'm starting to hold out hope that Ted McMillan is going to fall. I'm actually, because he's been one of the most, I think, not controversial, but there's a wide perception on what he is and who he is and how high he's going to go. A lot of people have him as like the 3rd receiver. I saw Daniel Jeremiah, his new top 50 came out. Ted McMillan is now his 3rd receiver. Emeka Egbuka ranks higher. So I'm just like, I remember a couple of years ago, I didn't think JSN was going to fall to the Seahawks. If Ted McMillan falls to the Seahawks, I'm going to be super excited. And if they take him, especially, I'm going to be doing backflips. And then I don't know. I don't really know what else I want after that. I think it's like O-line 100%. If a really good receiver is there and they take a receiver, I would understand that. And then past that, it could just be best player available. I don't really care.
Spoken like a man who's also kind of sick of watching his team.
I'm not sick of it. I think it's just this is such a different year. It's going to be so different in so many different ways. The offensive system is different. I think they're going to try and like mitigate some of their problems on the offensive line with scheme, sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't work. You know what I mean?
I just think, like the reason why Sam Darnold worked in Minnesota is because everything on offense was firing on all cylinders. He had like a top 3 skill position group. He had a solid offensive line, great scheme. You need to be focusing on making Sam Darnold feel as comfortable as possible. And to me, that's like offensive linemen and skill position players like wide receivers.
The people in Seattle, the pitchforks are going to start coming out for Schneider pretty early in the year if the offensive line stinks again.
I mean, if the guards are getting blown up every game and it looks like that Darnold playoff game for the first 5 weeks of the season, I mean, it's going to look like this entire experiment is a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, so they better take a fucking offensive lineman. That's all I can say.
And the guards are not bad, right? They have is it Cross and who's the other guy?
No, the tackles are pretty good.
The tackles are good, but you need the guards, right? It's the interior offensive line that's been a problem.
Yeah.
When a whole unit
and Abe Lucas has been really hit or miss in terms of health. So he's not even, I think, someone you can count on. It's basically Charles Cross at left tackle, who I think is a really good player.
And even he was a little banged up, right?
And
when he first came into the league.
Well, he's had some issues with health. But he hasn't been quite as consistent, I think, as everyone expected, because he was really good as a rookie, and I think his performance has been a little hit or miss. I still am really high on him, but the rest of their offensive line, there's nobody I feel really confident in right now.
Once again, take a lineman. Next team.
Yeah. So, Cardinals. I have the Arizona Cardinals as 3 degrees away from the Eagles. And, I mean, coaching, Jonathan Gannon, head coach of the Cardinals, he was on the Eagles. That's a great start if you want to be the Eagles. They signed Josh Sweat. You want a defensive end, he was on the Eagles. So it's like a really good start from the Cardinals being the Eagles. That they're on the right path.
Yeah.
Kyler gets a half degree from Kyler.
Yeah, and he's kind of the opposite of Jalen Hurts in terms of Eagle, right? Like he's the last guy you would think could nail the tush push.
2 Kyler Murrays in a trench coat could be one Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
I think
is he the last quarterback you'd want to do the tush push? You trust to do the tush push, or is he so small that he could kind of sneak in behind the line? Could he kind of find a crevice?
Do you know that Mike Leach? This is a very politically incorrect story, but like this is real life. Mike Leach, who was since passed away, but he's like a legendary college football coach and like a true air raid disciple. And please don't cancel me for this, but Mike Leach genuinely thought this. He felt there was no rule in the rule book that he wanted to give a scholarship to, I don't know the politically correct, a little person. And he wanted them to throw them over the line into the end zone. And they tried explaining to Mike Leach, like, you can't just give someone a spot to throw them like it's a circus or like the Wolf of Wall Street, when they did that in The Office. Like, they're like, that's Mike Leach. Like, that's inappropriate that you can't do that. But he genuinely is like, but it's allowed. Like, you can do that. Like, that's allowed. There's no rule that says you can't do that. And they're like, Mike, that is inappropriate. And he wanted to do it. And they talked him out of it.
So he would essentially have like Anthony Richardson throwing a guy
Kyler
over
Murray.
the end zone.
No, that was the plan. It's like pick up Kyler Murray and throw him.
It was like pick him up by his collar, like you're throwing somebody, like you're kicking somebody out of a party, essentially. You grab him by his collar and just swing him over the line into the end zone.
There's a whole subplot in Lord of the Rings, and it's more prevalent in the books, and then like I think there was like an extended edition version in the movies, but it's like you'd never toss a dwarf. Like it was like the Gimli thing. I think it was in the extended edition. Aragorn threw Gimli up something at Hell's Deep.
So I think we were talking about the torpedo bat in baseball. I think this is the new torpedo bat in the NFL. Throwing somebody over the line.
Oh, we got emails about the torpedo bat thing. Should I read an email about the torpedo bat?
Yeah. What do they got? Are people excited about it? Are they pissed off?
So the torpedo bat thing, and again, we'll see how much it's actually the actual torpedo bat, because again, the Yankees also played the Brewers and maybe just destroyed Nestor Cortez, who was nervous coming home. But torpedo bats are sick. Everyone's doing it. Alex Bregman started doing it.
Sick.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, just they changed the shape of the bat and they made the barrel bigger. And it's like, why did that take so long?
They made the sweet spot bigger.
Yep.
Ben Lindbergh made a good point. It really looks like a bowling pin, but torpedo bat's a perfect name, so we're going to call it that. So we were like, what the other sport versions of this? People were like, 3-pointers. And we're like, no. 3-pointers like passing the ball. You can shoot a 2 or 3. You can run to the pass, and everyone's like, wait, passing's like 3s. Someone emailed in and had the actual analogy for the torpedo bat. It's from Jake.
Jake.
No, sorry, I lied, not Jake. Lucas.
Sorry, fuck you, Jake.
Lucas.
Lucas, the answer is the granny free throw. The underhanded
sure.
free throw. And his point is, it looks. Now the difference is
the Barry family or whatever.
Rick Barry,
yeah.
Rick Barry shot 89% doing the granny free throw. Which is remarkable.
That's a great idea. And I don't know if I'm going to get this exactly right. You'll have to check me on this, but I believe Shaquille O'Neal for a year tried the granny shot and significantly improved his free throw percentage, but then got made fun of so much that he stopped doing it.
Yes, same with Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain's
or was it Wilt then? Maybe it wasn't Shaq.
I don't know.
Was it Wilt?
Shaq tried a bunch of stuff. I can't keep track. Shaq did one hand.
There was some big guy who couldn't shoot free throws who switched to the granny style and like doubled his free throw percentage and got made. He was so embarrassed. It was so emasculating to him that he stopped doing it.
Craig, I'm reading a headline to an article. Shaq on free throws. I told Rick Barry I'd rather shoot 0% than shoot underhand.
Okay, maybe it was Shaq.
I'd rather shoot 0. Dude, that's incredible. Wilt Chamberlain, Lucas put this in the email. Wilt Chamberlain shot 61% from the line, which sounds bad, but it was by far the best free throw season of Wilt Chamberlain's career. And then he said, Chamberlain explained the decision saying that shooting granny style made him feel, quote, like a sissy.
Yeah,
so
that's all it is. Just kind of looks lame.
It's called a granny shot.
Yeah, you got to rebrand it. You got to call it the torpedo.
Like the submarine shot,
Yeah, the Kraken coming from underneath.
The badass shot.
Yeah,
the alpha.
Yeah, the alpha.
It's like how they name like IPAs. It's like the fuck your mom double IPA. It's like the desert bitch. The Desert Storm hazy IPA.
Wait, can people's email in
Desert Storm?
Email in 2 IPAs and a lie. I want 2 IPAs
they're the
and a lie.
best.
The IPA names?
It's like the Voodoo Ranger. It's like every name is ridiculous.
It's like workplace platforms, but the opposite. Every workplace platform sounds
it's
like
It's like Top Gun call signs are just IPA names now.
Flying bitch.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 IPAs and a lie. Send them in. Okay, so that's the torpedo thing. Anyway, I don't know what team we're talking about. The Cardinals need, guess what? Cardinals need defensive linemen. I don't know what else to say. Defensive tackles, D linemen. How many times can we talk about it?
I originally wasn't offended when you said the Seahawks are 3 degrees away, but placing the Seahawks next to the Cardinals feels insulting.
But here's the thing. I'm giving the Seahawks half a point for JSN and Ken Walker and Kupp. That's generous.
Yeah.
I think half a point for Darnold is generous.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
I'm just saying, like, the D-line, full point.
It's just like when you the realization that we're in the same bucket as the Cardinals is hurtful.
And you're giving half a point for Marvin Harrison, McBride, Michael Wilson.
Yes, I'm giving the Cardinals half a point for that. I think
they honestly probably do have better skill players.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
I think
really
I'm not out on Marvin Harrison. And Arizona's offensive line solid. They need defensive line. Arizona's defensive line. They signed Josh Sweat. Guess what? It's an Eagle. They need like 6 more Eagles. So another team who just barren at defensive tackle, barren at defensive end. Like they need pass rushers, like big time, and they need cornerbacks too. Which I know I keep saying.
They just signed Calais Campbell.
How old is Calais
Campbell? Sorry.
How old is he? He must be 40.
He's like 34 or something. Let's see. He is
38.
38.
Calais Campbell,
he's 38. What am I talking about? It's like the Russell Wilson thing. He's 32.
I feel like they were doing these stories 4 years ago. It was like Calais Campbell going to give it a go 1 more year for the Ravens. And you're like, wow, he's 35 and he's still doing it.
I mean, just to give you an idea of how old Calais Campbell is, he was drafted by the Cardinals in 2008.
Weird.
I kind of want to pull up that draft and see who was drafted at Calais fucking Campbell.
Do the Cardinals feel close to the Eagles in any way, kind of stylistically, vibes-wise to you?
They're both
opposite.
bird.
Yeah.
Calais Campbell was drafted 1 pick after Deshaun Jackson. That's how old Calais Campbell is.
That's wild.
No, I know what you mean, though, Craig. The Cardinals are just so different. We'll see. They need more defensive linemen, like everyone else. The Bears, another team. Spoiler, they need fucking defensive linemen. Like, this is another team. And this is really what I'm saying. It's like every now and then you get a draft that really does match what teams need. And I think that this can lead to like I think a lot of defenses are going to be shaped by who gets the good ones and who doesn't, because every team needs them this
big
year.
Ones.
The Bears is another team. January to March, it was just Caleb Williams. We're going to sign Ben Johnson as the head coach, and like he'll fix Caleb. They're going to go get Jonah Jackson, who sucked on the Rams. It was great for Ben Johnson to play guard. They're going to trade for Joe Tooney to play guard. They're going to sign Drew Talman to play center. And like they already took a right tackle in the first round. So that's all about Caleb. And now defense, it's like, holy cow, the defense, Montez Sweat's going to be 30 this season. They have Andrew Billings, who's 30. Grady Jarrett, who tore his ACL, he's 32 at defensive tackle. So they need defensive linemen. The secondary is actually really good for Chicago. But DK, this is just another team that like has to take a D lineman. But the difference is the Bears are picking really high. They have the 10th pick. I feel like they actually could get like an actual I don't want to say Micah Parsons and throw, but there is like an all-pro level pass rusher that the Bears could get at the 10th pick.
Yes.
I feel like.
Sorry, this is an aside, but Craig going ew when you said Montez Sweat's gonna be 30 reminded me of Zoolander when Christine Taylor is like doing the very earnest, genuine confession about how she was bulimic when she was younger. She's like, yeah, when I was younger, I was fat. And he goes, ew. It's like fucking Zoolander. Anyway,
dude, wait, Zoolander, I thought heroin chic was fake. I've learned the other day that heroin chic is a very real fashion style. Like derelict. But in Zoolander, that's the joke. Derelict.
I know,
it's
yeah,
homeless
derelict.
chic. And they're like,
really,
heroin chic.
really dirty.
Did you know heroin chic was real?
Probably not, to be honest.
I did not know that.
Heroin chic is very real, dude.
It just means like so
fashion.
skinny you look like you're drugged out.
Yeah, it was just like classic like 90s, 2000s.
Clothes are in
stuff.
tatters.
Yeah, early 90s, yeah.
The Bears are actually in an interesting
The
spot.
cocaine and cigarette diet. Yeah.
Right. To get back on track here, the Bears are an interesting spot at number 10 because I really do think they can kind of go any different direction they want. They don't have to take an offensive line because of what they did in free agency. I think Braxton Jones at left tackle is still serviceable enough where they can, roll with him for another year if they want to. They could, in theory, take another offensive skill player if they wanted. Like some people are saying, if Ashton Genty is there, that might make a lot of sense for them to take him, just because you're putting an explosive, big time playmaker on the ground and in the passing game in an offense around Caleb Williams. Defensive line, there's a bunch of guys, like you said, Heifetz, that could be available at that spot. Basically, any of the edge players not named Abdul Carter could be there. There's going to be some really good offensive linemen. They'll probably have their pick of most of the corners, if not all the corners, other than Travis Hunter. They could just go in any direction, I think.
Speaking as the team who took Saquon Barkley in the second round and Will Hernandez Saquon second and then Will Hernandez 35th, when you could have had Quentin Nelson and Nick Chubb, the Bears should take a defensive end with the 10th pick, I promise.
Especially with how deep the running back position is.
Yeah, it's like just go get literally any running back in the second, third round. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, but it's Genty.
I know. Guess what? You know what? We're the first round picks who helped the team. I love Genty. McCaffrey didn't help the Panthers win any games.
I feel like that's how owners, like when owners are sitting in the war room on draft night, all the scouts are like, we should get a D lineman and then a running back. And the owner's like, yeah, but it's Genty.
Yeah.
Dude, does that work for anyone? Taking a running back that high? No, but it could work for us. He's sick.
Yeah, but it's Genty. We get a
now
lot of buzz.
We're getting full 4 degrees away. Falcons, I have 2
full
degrees away.
4.
What's different? Yeah, 4 degrees from the Eagles. The difference is that Falcons don't need anyone on the defensive line. They're actually really set with their pass rush. No, I'm just kidding. They actually need it more than any team in the league. I actually don't think if I could rank every team on how badly they need to leave this first round with the pass rusher or a defensive tackle, I think the Falcons are literally first.
Yeah, correct.
And no, literally defense, like first round quarterback, first round running back, first round receiver, first round tight end, 3 first rounders on the offensive line. The Falcons should just start defense at this draft.
And again, I think people might be upset hearing that the Falcons are ranked below, I don't know, the Cardinals or something. But the exercise is, how similar is this team to the Eagles? And the Falcons on the defensive line are about as far away from the Eagles as you could be.
Yeah.
Falcons and Eagles are similar birds, though.
That's true. Maybe they should be 3 degrees then.
Oh, Falcons are sick, dude. That Planet Earth episode where the Peregrine Falcons are in Manhattan and they're more successful
they're
at
flying
hunting.
down, swooping.
They're more successful hunting in Manhattan than in the wild because, like, the way the skyscrapers play, they can hit pigeons and stuff.
They're like swooping down like Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
the life of a pigeon in New York must just be pure terror at all times.
Pigeons, dude. Well, I think about
well, except for they can't think.
Rats with wings.
Dude, pigeons suck. Honestly, I love that Falcons are hunting pigeons.
Come on, what are you talking about? Pigeons are heroic.
Purpose.
Pigeons are heroic. Remember
I know. What have we learned about carrier pigeons?
Oh, the carrier pigeons.
Who knows how many lives they saved?
Should we start a delivery company where we just have the pigeons in New York deliver food?
Instead of
everyone's
drones?
going AI
That's what
and
I want.
driverless cars.
I want dirty pigeons handling my food.
Well, they deliver the messages in World War II.
Shit all over the bag.
What if instead you're in a building in New York City and instead of going down to meet whatever robo-car is showing up with your delivery food now, what if the pigeon just flies right into your window and you can just, and then the pigeon, you take it. You don't have to get off your couch. The pigeon just flies in.
The bird just splatters into your window. Your burrito goes flying everywhere.
You have to leave the window open. It's like essential.
No, that's good. That's great. The pigeon lady from Home Alone 2, I think, was on that 20 years ago. But
How, dude, also
Her
John
business
Wick.
didn't pan out. She had trouble
Yeah.
going public with it.
It wasn't the right time.
You couldn't scale it. That was the problem.
Yeah. Full 4 degrees away. Dallas Cowboys. Dallas, I think, is the most top-heavy team in the NFL.
Man.
Literally, it's Dak Prescott. Let's just give Dak a point for a second. I don't care if Eagles fans get mad. We'll just give him a degree. Dude, I think the offensive line for the Cowboys, they're young. We'll see if they develop. We'll see if they're good. It's Cowboys, I actually think, are the worst skill group in the NFL, and then they happen to have CeeDee Lamb on top of it. I don't know what you want to call that, but it's like Javonte Williams at running back, and then like you have like Jalen Tolbert at receiver and Kevontae Turpin, and then just CeeDee Lamb is there. That's weird. The Cowboys are going to keep Micah Parsons and then Osa, the defensive tackle's name I can't pronounce, but like they were like the 3rd worst run defense by Pro Football Focus with those 2 guys, and now they're paying them more to stay. So it's like they have like Trevon Diggs is not going to be ready for week 1 at cornerback. Like DeMarion Overshown is not going to be ready for week 1 at linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Like this team is kind of a mess, honestly. They need everything.
Also, just the leadership part of this is so funny to me. Craig sent a text the other day where it was like,
oh wait, should I go read it?
Jerry Jones pretending he doesn't know the name of the agent for Michael Parsons.
Oh, Michael Parsons. Yeah, he's like David Mulligata. He's like, never heard of him.
I've never heard of that guy. I don't know who that is.
He said, yeah, I don't know his name. And then Micah Parsons retweeted it and was like, I love David Mulligata. I'm not letting him do anything. I'm not doing anything without his consent. And I was like, way to go, Jerry. You're really just hitting every corner.
It's also just like in the context of this is the team that waits like a year too long for everything.
Yeah.
And loses themselves so much money in doing so.
Talking yourself into, I'm so smart that I'll be able to make an even better deal down the road. And then you end up absolutely screwing yourself.
The cap goes up $100 million. What are we doing?
It's like, has procrastinating ever worked? Do your homework for
literally. It's kind of like if Jerry Jones waited to buy a car. He's like, I'm going to wait for these tariffs to happen to see what happens. I'm just going to let's just wait and see. Jerry, I actually think we should deduct points. Can we do negative points for Jerry?
He's negative 3 degrees away from the Eagles.
Is anyone further from Howie Roseman than Jerry Jones? I bet Howie Roseman knows where the sun's going to be eons in advance. So thousands of years from now, Howie Roseman can tell you where the sun's going to be in that stadium. I bet they have a model. Wait,
they traded a 3rd rounder for Jonathan Mingo.
Oh my God. Yeah, the Cowboys, good luck.
They couldn't even get on the field, it feels like.
Dude, do you think the Eagles have somewhere on Howie Roseman's computer there's a file that's like what the sun's going to be depending on when their games come out? Do you think that they know that better than the Cowboys do?
Yeah, I think most teams know better than the Cowboys.
I think you could literally just Google it right now.
That's a good
Which
point.
is funny because I don't think Jerry knows how to do that.
No, definitely not. All right, even Nick Saban doesn't know how to use email. These other teams, I thought these are the teams that are the furthest in the entire NFC from the Cowboys. Panthers, Giants, Saints. Yeah. I almost want to lump them together because they all need so much stuff. But like, I'll give the Panthers.
It's almost not even worth discussing how close they are to the Eagles.
Exactly. I'm starting to think that we're grossly underestimating the Saints for some reason. Like the Saints are going to do that thing where they just make everyone feel dumb because we're all sort of saying,
yeah, you know,
but which part of
we joke about that, but like you said, the Saints are going to do that thing when is the last time? So, when have they done that in the last?
I guess what
years?
I'm talking about is like the Saints continuing to be competitive. Last year they weren't that competitive, but like continuing to be competitive, even though we've been talking about how the salary cap is finally going to catch up with them. It feels like for the last like 7 years, we've been saying, oh, this is what happens when you keep spending on the credit card. It's finally, the check is finally due. And then every year they just fucking figure out a way to like make it work.
Are they making it work? Yeah, that's a loose definition of making it work. They win like 6 games.
Well, if your expectations are they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, I think you're going to be surprised how they're not.
Well, they're like the 7th worst team in the NFL.
Well, yeah, I was going to say. I think
what do we say? I'm not saying they're going to be a fucking Super Bowl team. I'm just saying they're not going to be. Maybe they'll win the division.
It's important. It's more important for them than any other team to win.
That's crazy.
The draft.
That's crazy.
To Craig's point about hitting drafts, when they hit those 2 drafts in a row, then the Saints won 13 games. They're the first team to win 13 games in a row and not make a Super Bowl. 13 games 3 years in a row, not make the Super Bowl. But Dika, to your point about which part's underrated, Derek Carr. I mean, is he going to get a degree? No, right? The skill players.
No.
Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed combined for 14 games last year. I feel like you can't give them even half Kamara's like almost 30. Like, I don't think Chris Olave is not a bet to stay on the field. I don't know. I feel like that's...
If we're giving Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride a half, we're not giving Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed half.
That's kind of how I feel.
I'm not saying your process is incorrect here. I just feel like we've been shitting on the Saints really, really hard, and I'm starting to worry that it's going to backfire for me personally. That's
one of those things where I'm willing to eat my words if the Saints win 10 games
me too.
this year.
All right.
I feel that way as well. And then the Panthers, I'll give them the offensive line and Bryce Young. They're all right. I think the receivers, I'm not willing to admit. Dave Canales out here like Xavier gets going to be our number one. I'm like, okay, good luck with that. I don't know. I think the pass catchers
Adam
still
Thielen,
need
Jalen Coker.
Thielen's, yeah. Jalen Coker is like your best receiver, and he was undrafted, which kind of tells you the ceiling, and he is the best receiver. And then the defense, they just need everything. I mean, I think they kept like 4 secondary players from last year, and then they have Derek Brown, and then everyone else.
They had one of the worst defenses in NFL history last year.
They gave up the most points in the history of the NFL. Literally, the Panthers gave up the most points in the history of football.
Yeah.
In the
is
NFL
that right?
football.
They gave up the most points ever last year?
Yes. Now, it's cheating because the 17th game.
17 games.
Having said that,
still,
literally the most points ever.
It's a tough number to be. It's a tough spot to be.
It's a tough number to be.
Yeah. You don't want to be. It's like 5
to be represented by or whatever.
So,
and I'm trying to think, what did the Panthers do in free agency on defense? They brought in.
They tried to get the defensive tackle into the Patriots.
Milton
Williams, and then he was at Carolina, and New England swooped in, and I think Vrabel called him and stole him.
They signed Trevon Moore.
Yeah,
so
they settled
Wharton?
for Tershawn Wharton, who was like depth for Kansas City, but that money was supposed to go to Milton Williams. Then, to Deacon's point, they signed Trevon Merrick, who's a safety from the Raiders. But like
Bobby Brown from the Rams.
Bobby Brown, Wharton. Yeah,
it's not impressive.
And Rico
to be totally
Dowdle.
Honest. And Rico Dowdle, like it's not an impressive thing that Carolina's got going on. So,
Andy Dalton. Yeah.
The best part of Carolina is honestly their interior offensive line and Bryce Young not sucking. And so
they need to draft a wide receiver. Probably a defensive lineman and a wide receiver the first 2 picks, right?
They need everything. And then there's the Giants, who I know we've talked about a ton this offseason and we don't need it, but I like leadership. I think that's a 0. I think that's a 0.
Mm-hmm.
Quarterback is a 0.
How dare you?
I think the skill is kind of I know. I mean, you got Malik Neighbors.
Nah, that's a 0, sadly,
if
right?
the Giants drafted Abdul Carter, I actually think the Giants' defensive line would be like top 5 in the NFL. Not saying
I agree with that.
But if you have Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Thibodeau is like you're rotating in, and Abdul Carter's there, I do think the Giants' defensive line would actually be like top 3 or 4 in the entire NFL. Other than that, team kind of sucks. So they need everything.
Right.
Team sucks. They have
They
one
should
good
probably trade back, just accrue picks, take offensive linemen and
yeah, but if Hunter or Abdul Carter is there, tough to trade back. Although you could get a lot probably.
I know, that's the thing. You already have a good defensive line. It's like Abdul Carter would be cool, but if you can get a massive package for that.
Like a couple firsts.
Yeah. Even Travis Hunter.
Yeah, no one's doing it though.
Probably not.
A couple firsts. We'll see. But yeah, so it was humbling realizing the Giants and the Saints are like clearly the worst teams, furthest from the Eagles. Confirming maybe that's why the Giants are 2-16 versus the Eagles in the last 18 games. But that's fine. But yeah, so Saints, Panthers, Giants need everything. Going through all this, I really do think, I know we sound like a joke, but I'm really serious. I think they're going to see like 14 front 7 players taken in this draft. Literally almost half of this draft, I think, will be defensive tackles, pass rushers, and linebackers.
Which probably means there's going to be a lot of offensive players taken later than they should have gone that will be gems. That will turn out to be great values, right? I mean, if it's so heavily defensive, it's probably going to be a lot of like wide receivers and running backs and stuff that slip into the later rounds that end up panning out.
Yeah. And again, it's not an accident these things happen. Teams know that there's so many guys so that way in free agency, they don't necessarily overpay guys because they know that they're going to target that in the draft. So there's a reason. So we'll do the AFC team needs.
Heifetz, did you figure out which teams literally have the most players from the Eagles?
Yes. So
they've got lots of Eagles.
Who has the most
AFC.
Eagles? Yeah.
I thought it was going to be the Cardinals just because I thought that Gannon would eventually collect some guys, but he actually only got Josh Sweat. The team that has the most.
The Steelers have 2 Eagles.
It's actually the Steelers. Yeah, it's Darius Slay and then you have Kenneth Gainwell. So the Steelers are basically the Eagles now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good move. I like that. It's
Should
not
I lead the
exactly
AFC episode
the 2
with
Eagles
Pittsburgh?
I would have chosen, but it's a good start.
You got to start somewhere. You know? You have to start somewhere.
So the Steelers are the only team with 2 Eagles from last year.
I think
pretty
so.
good.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Once we get Rodgers, that's the final piece.
I think like the big picture takeaway from this exercise that I've gotten is there's like 3 teams in the NFC.
Yes.
Basically. Not that that was not obvious, but it's the Eagles easily, the Lions,
right?
The Rams.
Well, Lions and Rams.
And then honestly, I swear to God, I think the Bucs are the 4th best team. And then Washington's 5th. And like, it's so hard for me to find one of the other 11 and see what would happen. Like the Packers, Vikings, like we'll see. But you're banking on McCarthy as a rookie quarterback. Like you start to really reach.
Did you guys see the Art Rooney quotes about Aaron Rodgers?
I actually was wondering if we could go a whole episode without talking about Rodgers, but yes, I did.
They're so fucking depressing. This is ESPN.
Wasn't it like we're going to wait a while, but we won't wait forever or something?
Yeah. So Brooke Pryor, the Steelers reporter for ESPN, reported this. Art Rooney II said he keeps, quote, hearing that the star quarterback is, quote, headed in our direction, quote. We keep getting positive sort of signals about it. How sad is this?
Pathetic. You can actually read, like, he's talking. It sounds like Rodgers is literally doing the thing texting when you start typing and then you stop.
The bubbles and they go away.
And then you never hear the bubbles again. Like, I feel like that's what Rodgers has done to them.
We keep hearing that he's headed in our direction. We're getting positive sort of signals about it. Oh my God. This is like the ultimate relationship that you're stuck in and you can't get out of because you're desperate.
Can you read that again? But imagine that it's like your friend of yours that's like, hey, what happened to that girl you were like going out with? And then you.
He's like, yeah, I mean, I keep hearing that she's headed in my direction. She keeps kind of hinting that she's interested. And I'm getting some sort of positive signs about it. but yeah, so I think we're in a good place. I think we're in a good spot.
I was just thinking the Aaron Rodgers right now is that, you know, the Adrian Grenier or Grenier, how do you say his last name? The Entourage guy?
Yeah.
Is it Grenier?
I think it is Grenier.
Anyway, he's like a meme now because there was just one tweet from back in 2014 where it was like, haven't been posting because I'm too present, distracted by the moment. Sorry, but thank you. And he's just like in fucking, looks like he's in Greece. He's at Santorini.
It's like a casting director hasn't called me in 4 years, so I've been unplugging.
I'm too present, distracted by the moment.
I don't know if anything more meta has happened than him just being Vincent Chase in every aspect, including the entire arc in order.
Yeah. I don't know if he dated a porn star, but yeah.
I mean, come on. That's the easiest part of the whole thing.
Sure.
We know that happened. Okay.
That was a weird season. Sasha Grey.
Oh, that was weird.
Didn't love that season. He got super into coke.
Yeah, that was a weird thing.
It's kind of dark.
Did that happen to him though?
Yeah, that really happened though.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
I'm like, did that happen to Mark Wahlberg? What year was that for Mark? I know Mark had some tough times, but
yeah, we got to see what year it was and then cross-reference with what porn star it probably.
Now he wakes up at 3 a.m.
Yeah,
and has 3 days before you're even awake.
I actually love, dude, the whole like 3 days thing. Like you said,
I think that's my favorite clip.
I love
5
3
years.
days.
I'm a day ahead now. I'm banking days.
I get up at 3 a.m. 3 to 7, boom, that's day one. 7 to 11, I'm kicking your ass. I'm 2 days ahead. He's like, noon to 5? Noon to 5, that's my normal work day. Then 6 to 12, boom, day 4, I got 28 days a week, brother. You're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about?
I don't think you understand how time works.
He literally was like, I get 28 days a week.
Oh my God.
He was like massive. He looked like Dave Bautista. He's like bald, roided out. I'll kick your ass. You got no shot. 28 days a week.
Did you see the newest like hustle culture meme guy? Like,
sure.
Oh, the water bottle? Yeah.
Gets up in the morning, he's drinking water.
Saratoga water? What is it? Yeah.
He's like running next to like a big SUV.
I think, what was the most offensive, ridiculous part of that? I couldn't tell if it was that he brushes his teeth with expensive sparkling water or that I honestly, maybe I want to start trying rubbing a banana peel on my face.
I think the journaling is the most offensive part of it. The implication that not only do you get up at 4 a.m, but I'm going to write my thoughts down at 4:30.
Oh yeah, all those guys journal. They always like get up, sauna, cold plunge, sit down with their little book and journal for 10 seconds, and then go to the gym.
The part of these videos I can't get out of my head, but shout out Derek Thompson has this new book, Abundance. It's an awesome book. Please go out. You can get that. But Derek Thompson has this point I can't unsee with all these hustle porn videos, everyone's morning routine. None of them have any other people in their life.
Yeah, they're all super.
There's no women. There's no children.
Their ideal day is like pure solitude.
Yeah, there's literally no like. I text my mom. Nope, nothing.
Yeah, It sounds brutal. Also, why do all these guys go to the gym with like really nice watches on? I don't understand that.
Because how else will you know that they're rich?
Right.
Like they make such a point of like putting on the Rolex and then he's squatting in the gym with his Rolex on. What the fuck is that? It's the weirdest thing to me.
Austin brings up the funniest moment from that he's like, I think we'll do 10K. He's like on his computer talking to somebody. It's like making
really?
deals. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even think I listened to it. He says that. I think we'll do
Something
10K.
like that,
What does that even mean?
Yeah, that's what we don't know, Craig.
So why did he get evicted from his apartment? I saw that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
He's getting up too early, making too much noise. I don't know.
Yeah, too powerful. I like also the one shot of him jumping into the pool. He like leaps like 8 feet in the air. It's like,
yeah, he does. Yeah.
It's like an Olympic high dive. I don't know why that was included.
I got to say though, Craig, for as much as it's hilarious and sad, everyone now knows about this fucking water. It works
the water was the
insanely
only
good.
winner.
Yeah. I went at this party I went to over the weekend. Someone had one of those. I was
Like,
like,
how
are you
advertising
kidding me?
works?
Someone brought this fucking water bottle.
He washed his face with it. Also, I think dipping your face in a bucket of ice water is having a moment.
No, I
kinda think it might
that
be
thing's
good.
real. I
Yeah.
started doing
No,
stuff like that in the pandemic just because it was, for me, it was just stress of like
Yeah.
cold showers. Like basically,
Yeah.
again, it's like the torpedo bat. I have no idea if cold water actually changes anything.
But
or
it
it's
doesn't
more-
matter.
No, but it's more if you believe that like dunking your head in ice water will change, like I'm stressed and I'm going to do this and I'm going to reset. I think it's placebo, but like in COVID, when I was like losing my mind, I would take like a really cold shower or something and that would help. But I think that was
I
just
believe
like,
in that stuff. I think there's some
Blood
science
flow.
to that.
Yeah.
I think there's some science to
I
that.
don't know.
I like when you're hungover, a big bucket of ice water feels great. That was like Paul Newman's trick. Paul Newman used to drink like 24 beers every night and then show up the next day to set and looked awesome and would dunk his head in a bucket of ice water in the dressing room for like 20 minutes before doing anything. And it works, baby.
Like
D-swells.
the scene from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when Leo is like all hungover.
Yeah, that's like literally a Paul Newman reference there.
Why did I have to have 12 fucking what was it like whiskey gingers or whatever is that? What was he drinking?
12 whiskey gingers. Stupid. Oh my God. All right, let me read one email here. We'll get out of here. All right. This email is from Jake. This one actually is from Jake.
Jake. Sorry.
Jakey.
There's a guy. Well, I'm skipping this whole prologue. Basically, there's a guy at Jake's office. We're going to call him Marty.
Marty.
Marty is the ultimate means well guy. However, I recently made a discovery about Marty that I simply cannot overlook.
Okay.
A few months ago, Marty brought us all pizza. I picked up a slice, and then I realized that I actually wanted a different slice. And I could go into why the slice was better, but I don't know if we have time. But it doesn't matter. He picked up a different slice, and he felt, so he felt a little weird about it, and he's like, this is Jake, and he's like, oh, hey guys, like this one looks better. Don't worry, I'm putting this other one back. I washed my hands, don't worry. And Marty is like, oh, don't worry, we're all men here. As if men don't necessarily need to wash their hands.
People who don't wash their hands, straight to jail.
So Jake's like, at first I just uncomfortably chuckled it off as some kind of joke. Par for the course with this guy. Joke doesn't land, it's fine. But then one day I'm in the bathroom. I'm at the urinal, Marty in the stall.
I'm very judgmental of people that do this, by the way.
Yeah, Marty flushes, exits the stall, walks out, doesn't wash his hands.
Yeah. There's a lot of those people. I notice that often.
Yeah, same.
You see a guy just like do his business and walk right out.
It's I think that some guys wear it as a badge of honor. Like they're like, I'm collecting antibodies and in the after times, after everything goes down and the grid is down, like I will have stronger immune system than you. Or they don't give a fuck. I don't know. But so Jake writes,
now we're touching everything they're touching.
Yeah.
Cool.
So he says, I know a verifiable confirmation that this guy who buys all of us lunch once a month and brings in bags of chips that we share does not wash his hands. And he's like, I'm not a germaphobe, but I don't like the idea of shit fingers rummaging through my food and chips.
I'm not a germaphobe.
Dude.
I hope you don't like that. Yeah.
Walking out of the stall and not washing your
So I
hands
was gonna say,
is
there's
a new level.
world.
That's
there's
actually-
a world where maybe he was peeing in the stall, but still,
Yeah.
like
You're
that's
touching all this shit in the stall.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know,
don't-
man.
because here's the I'm not gonna lie. A lot of times I'll do my foot. I'll flush the toilet with my foot. Like I don't even want to.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't even want to.
I mean, or if you're lucky, it's like an automatic thing.
Exactly. And so, well, they're finicky. Anyway, so Jake's point is now my last day of work is coming up on Thursday. And I have a Larry David situation where Mike has offered to buy a sheet pizza for my last day. And again, he couldn't mean
what?
more.
Sheet as in SHIT?
Oh, well done.
Heyo.
A shit pizza.
I can already tell that when the day's over and we part ways forever, Marty's going to want to shake my hand. And I can't tell you how little I want to touch this guy's hand. He calls me sir. I know for a fact he's not going to settle for a fist bump. So I have 3 options. Do I tell him he disgusts me as a person? I refuse to shake his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. Do I stand firm in my quest for a fist bump and fist bump alpha him and not let him shake my hand? Or do I just bite the bullet, shake his hand, bring a pocket hand sanitizer?
Just go wash your hands right afterwards.
It's fine. Shake his hand.
That's what I was thinking.
No, actually, what he should do, Jake should go to the bathroom right before meeting Marty, not wash his hands, and then shake Marty's hand as kind of a power play, you know?
That's good. But
Yeah.
that's good. I like that. And just
wash your fucking hands.
cross-pollinate.
Yeah, that's right. A shit
And then-
handshake.
And then eat the pizza.
Yeah, then you eat the pizza.
Just hand him a slice.
That's right. Shake his hand and say, why don't I grab you a slice, Marty?
Yeah. That's good. We're men here. We're
Yeah.
all men.
Maybe sneeze on the pizza. It's all good. We're men.
Yeah.
For men.
Email us other ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com. Email us other stories about dudes not washing their hands.
I don't really want to know.
You don't
to be
want to know?
honest.
Should we keep
Yeah.
it to ourselves?
Ignorance is
this like
bliss.
the booger eating? No, booger eating's worse. Booger eating's the
The
6
booger
out of
eating
6.
thing actually made me nauseous.
I do think you should wash your hands before you pee and maybe after as well, but I do think you should wash before.
Before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I
So
guess
you're
that
not,
makes
that way
sense.
you're not touching your wang
you're
with
grabbing-
like weird
So
stuff.
so it's like you're telling me you're at a baseball game and you're grabbing, walking up the
Oh,
stadium,
yeah.
you're touching handrails, you're opening the door, you're grabbing the door handle, and then you're going to touch your penis
Damn.
right after that?
Damn.
I
Now I'm
agree
going to
with
be like a germaphobe.
That
Now
makes
I'm-
no sense at all. You
Yeah.
should wash your hands and then touch your penis with a clean
So-
hand.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I'm not a germaphobe, but I don't like touching any of those surfaces. I will use the inside of my shirt and do it.
Me too.
Is
I
it-
try to do all
and-
that stuff, but sometimes it's unavoidable, and you're like, I got to open this door.
While we're here, can I ask you guys a question that I've wondered my whole life? It's crazy that not crazy, but a lot of this washing your hands stuff, it's like a chain of custody, right? That you don't want to be broken between the process from becoming dirty to like being clean. Like it's important. So I never understood if you're like in a public bathroom and you have to like turn the faucet on with your hand.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that that's like the last step is crazy. Like you wash your hands and then the last thing you do with your clean hands is supposed to grab the faucet that someone who wiped their ass is touching to turn it on.
That's why they have the sensor ones now.
Yes,
in
but I'm
everything.
saying when they don't, I never touch it. I grab a piece. I don't care about the environment. I'm sorry. I grab an extra piece of paper,
I
and
care about the
I
environment. I'm sorry.
I don't touch it. Not enough to grab it bare. I never raw dog the handle in a public.
I completely agree, Heifetz. Or I'll use like the back of my like wrist to kind of turn the handle off or something like that. But I completely agree.
I'll never put my fingers on the handle in a public bathroom because I'm like,
No,
this
and
is
then even
insane.
like
I'm more worried about the door handle on the way out.
that's
Same.
the other
Well,
thing. You
I like
wash
the
your
foot
hands.
things.
Yeah, the foot thing
Because there's
is
so many
great.
people that don't wash their fucking hands.
Uh-huh. Sometimes when I'm in like a single stall bathroom and there's people waiting for me outside and I have to open the handle, I will grab a paper towel, wrap it around the handle to open it, and then
Well, that's Craig.
and
That's
then
why so
quickly
many
ball it
places
up.
have.
Yes,
shoot it in the trash
Kobe.
can.
Yeah,
That's why so
100%.
many places have the garbage next to the door, Craig.
Yeah.
So you can grab the handle with the
Yes.
piece of whatever and then just drop it in the thing as you go.
Always.
Yeah. But it's like, again, think about, I don't know, you live in New York City, you ride the subway every day, and then you go into the bathroom and
Oh God! Now I'm gonna have to start washing my hands.
think about
before
how
and
gross
after.
that is. You're touching the whole world and then your
Yeah.
penis.
But now here's the thing. But here's the question: are you going to wash your hands back on the way out?
I think, honestly, more so for everybody else, you should. Just so that you don't,
It's
so
a
you
social
don't become.
contract.
But you're doing it more for social signaling than you think it's necessary.
No,
which I
I also
understand.
think there's like a little bit of OCD to it where it just like feels good to wash your hands after you've been doing it your whole life. I still think like you can do it just to kind of like go through the motions. And also so you don't become a Marty. For all we know, Marty washes his hands before he goes to the bathroom. We have no idea. So I think you got to do both because if you're the guy who doesn't wash his hands after he pees, then you become Marty and nobody wants to become a Marty. But you should probably do both. Because I think washing before makes the most sense for you, but for everybody else, it makes the most sense after.
There was a day when I was an intern at the Ringer where I peed next to Sean Fennessy 3 times
Flex.
in one day.
Whoa.
And it flex. And
You guys were
I
on the
remember
same
thinking
schedule.
it was
Wow.
totally coincidence. And I remember the third time thinking
Heifetz is
he's
just
gonna
staring
fire
at him
me.
across the office, drinking water exactly what he does.
Yeah, just mirroring it. I'm like, gotta talk to
I
Sean.
really
And
love the work you've been doing, Sean.
The first time was like, you don't say anything. The second time was funny and like weird. The third time I was like, oh my God. I walk in, I see him. I'm like,
He's like, okay,
I'm going to get fired.
This fucking guy.
I'm going to get fired. Like he's actually, but like you can't turn around, right? Like that's making it a thing. But I remember thinking I was going to get fired because that's weird.
Did you address it?
Well, when we walked in, it saw each other and we just like laughed. And then like, I just was like, oh my God, like this is the end of my career.
Did you saddle up right next to him? The urinal right
There
next
were
to him?
only two
That's a
urinals.
power move right there.
There's only 2 urinals.
Oh, there was only 2?
There's a divider though, which changes things. The divider changes the.
You rip it off. And you go, what's the big deal? We're men.
We're all men here. Yeah.
Just takes a shit in the urinal.
What's the big deal? We're men. Don't be
All
a
right,
bitch about it.
Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Fantasy, for not firing me when that happened. I swear it was an accident. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Emails ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com for hand washing stories. Just good ones, though. Don't send the weird ones. And actually, weird ones, not good, bad ones. I don't know. And then what was the other one we wanted? Emails ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com for. I don't even remember.
Can't remember either.
You guys probably remember.
Yeah, I don't know. Was it something about French lick or King Gizzard?
Oh
I
yeah,
don't know.
if you can explain the French
you live
lick
in
or
French
the salt lick or the
Are they salt?
whatever
Are they
lick.
salt deposits? What are they called?
Yeah, the deposits.
I don't know.
Deposits.
Is that what
Thank
they're
you,
called?
Lord.
Lord.
Thank you, the Doors.
Dude,
Yeah.
the band was
So,
right there.
R.I.P.
The Wizard.
No, but Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer.
Oh,
Just wanted to bring him up and say that I'm
He
very,
played
very
Jim
sad
Morrison.
to hear about Val Kilmer passing away. Just one of the most iconic actors of my generation growing up or whatever in so many great movies. Tombstone.
Yeah, Tombstone.
Top
man.
Secret, by the way, one of the all-time great like slapstick comedies. Craig, have you seen that?
No.
Top Secret. Put that on your list. It's so funny. I think that was the movie that he kind of got discovered by. Tombstone, Top Gun, Top Secret. The list goes on. There's so many great movies that he was in.
He's hilarious in Tombstone.
Dude.
Doc Holliday.
I watched it last night, Craig.
I'm in my prime. He's
Not
like
me.
sweating.
I'm in
Not
my
me.
prime.
I'm in my prime. I always think about that when I'm like getting older. Someone's like, Craig, you're getting older. You're probably not how long can you play basketball? I'm like, yeah, not me. I'm in my prime.
He's like on a 36-hour bender.
You must be pretty sore after basketball. I'm like, not me. I'm in my prime.
Why, Johnny Ringo? Looks like somebody just walked over your grave. He has so many great lines in that movie.
Yeah,
I'm your Huckleberry. There's like this whole big long analysis of what I'm your Huckleberry means, and it's like I think I read somewhere that back in the day it was like Hucklebearer, so Paul Bearer, and so maybe that he was saying that I'll be your pallbearer essentially.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, great movie. My favorite. I watched it again last night. My favorite scene that I think I hadn't really noticed as much anymore was when he gets up. Johnny Ringo or whatever is super drunk. He's talking to Wyatt Earp and like threatening him, and then all of a sudden he comes over. Doc Holliday comes over and he's like, I think is that when he says I'm your Huckleberry, and he's like, we're playing for blood, and then he just says, say when. I'm like, that is that's a bar.
Yeah.
And he's just like ready. He's just like wants to do it right there.
The just like eye to eye showdown Western stuff. Like it still is so cool.
Say when.
Yeah.
God. So good.
when